I put a new post up. The post said, edit, exclusivity is dead. I encountered a whole different slew of opinions. Like yesterday, it seemed to be a lot more vitriolic and such. I kind of went back and forth with some people, pouring data all over, and serving drinks all over the table in that regard. But today was a little interesting because two particular tweets actually struck me. One of them was a quoted tweet. The other one was a response. There was another response down the road somewhere that I thought, okay, this was actually very interesting at the end of the day. But this is a tweet from, actually a quote from Nib95, who quoted my tweet and said, watch how one or more exclusives get nominated for Game of the Year this year and next and the next after that, LOL. Now, Nib95 has a premise that exclusives are usually depicting their quality because they constantly get nominated for Game of the Year awards and they get shown to be technical marvels. One thing I don't think anybody has bothered to actually check Nib95 on is exclusivity a category of the metrics to get nominated for Game of the Year? If the answer is no, then I think that kind of dilapidates his entire argument in that regard. There really is no reason. There's no, not that I know of, is there? If somebody actually has a reason that says, or at least if there is a standard measurement as to the criterion or criteria in, conjunction that exclusivity is one piece of nominating a GOTY, then please let me know. As far as I can see, a lot of the games that have been going into Game of the Year nominations are multi-platform games. But here's also another crazy thing. When he said that, I remembered a very interesting situation. I said after nomination, it would then launch the PC ports that they're sitting on. Like how they were sitting on the Spider-Man 2 PC build that got leaked in the hack, got compiled, and played by pirates. If nobody remembers that story, I'm going to bring it back to your recollection when Insomniac got hacked, and when they got hacked, what was found and leaked was a PC build of Marvel Spider-Man 2 in such an advanced stage that pirates on the internet could compile it and play it. Now, I did not touch anything of such. What was the point? The game was going to be coming out on PlayStation and I was going to be playing on PlayStation. But I think that particular incident also goes again to obliterate this whole talk about exclusivity for the platform itself is built in some way that harnesses the entire machine when they build it all on PC. If the game does not work on a PC, listen to me very carefully, everybody. If the game does not work, does not compile, and I'm talking about the base code on a PC, I don't see how it's going to function on your console. Because you really do need, within your engine, which is running on a capable device that can process graphics, compile code very fast, for your code to be coherent and logical, for your graphics to process without any errors on that PC before you can actually make a coherent build that will run on your console. Machines behave via rules. This is something that nobody has actually pointed out in the technical conversation that I think has been missing. And I said, they build them on Windows, right? These so-called exclusives. It's a joke. It is predicated on this FOMO. And yes, they'll push exclusives. They'll do sponsorships. They'll do everything to get the word out there that this so-called game is fascinating. But in reality, the criteria to win Game of the Year award, the criteria to be a technical marvel, the criteria and all of the different missives that Nib95 has actually put up that allows for exclusivity to be this and this and that, none of these particular categories elect games based on exclusivity as their criteria. Not a single one of them. They actually elect the games based on the inherent quality, enjoyment from gamers, or lack thereof, like Astrobot, right? Maybe someone else enjoyed it, and that's what makes the game win Game of the Year. Because sure, as much as I don't care about Game of the Year, there are some games that I thought if it would deserve any award, whether rigged or whether I thought it was actually coherent or whatever, it was a game like Elden Ring. Elden Ring did the job, right? And so, yes, I can't say 1 minute Elden Ring deserved it and I'm going to follow Game of the Year awards and then the next minute it didn't deserve it. But either way, it was based on other things than exclusivity. So exclusivity is basically melted. This whole notion that, the game does this and the game does that and the blah, 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 blah. It's just so weird. You know what I mean? Like, see, and there are people that continue to jump on this stuff. Like this user says, not only nominated, but 7 out of 12 games that won the most GOTY awards were exclusive. SIE, blah, 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 blah. And they're over here basically doing this feedback loop, and no one has actually come to burst their bubble. Now let me go ahead and do it in real time. All right. Let me do it. All right. Which GOTY criteria or award criteria is based on the inherent characteristic called exclusivity? Let me spell very well. If you ask this question, it's a no-brainer that that's actually nonsense. This person said, where are Sekiro, Overwatch, GTA 5 on the list? Almost Rosa's asking because, again, it's not predicated on exclusivity. This person said only 2 of them are currently exclusive. I was arguing with Oyasumi Bastet yesterday. I was telling him that he came out with this Nintendo thing, and I told him, I said, yo, he put out that Nintendo had the mobile parts of their games, right? Timed exclusivity. Exclusivity where the game files are sitting on PC. Even the Nintendo games, they are developing these games on gaming PCs. The exclusivity hold is just to lure you in. But inherently, even though we remove the platform from whatever it is, inherently the game's quality is what is the most attractive piece, not that it is exclusive. I still continue to wonder how no one has actually looked and said, this is nonsense. And then at the end of the day, what we're seeing is when this game, so-called exclusive game, doesn't sell as much, they eventually go ahead and then launch it on other platforms and celebrate it. Oh, this game is now finally coming to you. Oh, plebby pleasant. Ah, ha, ha, ha. You can now go ahead and have our permission to play this game on your platform. As if your money wasn't good enough for them in the first place. They then come around and try to then take your money later down the road. Because, you know, somewhere, somehow, whatever exclusive game that they were launching for whatever platform was probably not sufficient in its sales and in its revenue. So again, if the game's exclusivity is what inherently makes it a Game of the Year, nomination, then the Game of the Year is actually way worse than I thought. However, if exclusivity is not inherently a characteristic of the game's, of the game, as a metric to be, pooled in terms of making it a Game of the Year title, then this whole argument about it winning Game of the Year and not Game of the Year, it doesn't say anything because, again, exclusivity is dead. And non-argument is not going to help this. Now, this is nothing against these folk. I'm just saying that it doesn't necessarily help us to understand why exclusivity even exists in the first place as a pro-consumer piece. Game of the Year is not a pro-consumer thing. I hope you guys know that. It doesn't benefit you as a consumer. It's a glorified ad segment where everybody is going to come and showcase their games. Good for devs, good for information and such, but how does that benefit the customer who has money to buy a video game, who's looking for money to, who's looking to basically play a video game, and now they want that customer to go spend an extra $500 to get that video game somewhere else? Makes no sense to me. Absolutely makes no sense. I don't think it even makes any financial, fiscal, or economic sense anyways. Now, if you want to use it as a lure, come into our ecosystem and stuff, sure, but you're not going to make money after spending money, which again, inherently defeats, or in a sense, at least, in a minimal form, almost subverts the main purpose of what business should be from spending money. Because how can you actually calculate that someone, is going to go buy a new console? And how can you even, guarantee that when they buy the new console, they're going to stay on your platform and keep spending money? Rather, they're going to go to the platform that they're used to playing on with their friends, with their favorite games, with their library, and then when they're done, they either leave it to gather dust or they sell it off. How does that benefit you? Perhaps this could be one of the reasons PlayStation is looking at console sales as a metric and saying that no longer is a priority. Because these people are buying these consoles, and what is the conversion of these consoles? If it's not yielding MAUs, it seems like it's almost pointless. I don't know. Tell me in the comment section. Thanks for watching. Peace out.